All right, LDJCapital, Bloccelerate VC, LA Token, BlokTech Capital, and Secure Digital Market. Please make your way to the stage. Looks like we are short one panelist. However, the show must go on. So, please welcome our lovely panelists. I have a few questions for you guys. Like we said, we're running a little behind on time, so you'll have 7 minutes to answer these questions. Please, do your best. Okay, so let me get you this mic. All right, just a quick introduction of you guys, what you do, what your name is.
Hi, afternoon. My name is Irfan. I'm the managing partner of Bloccelerate VC. Bloccelerate VC is a global blockchain venture fund based in Seattle. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zachary Friedman. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Secure Digital Markets, a full suite brokerage and liquidity provider based in Toronto, Canada.
Hey guys, my name is Jan Stavisky. I'm Director of US Operations Listings for La Token. It's a top 15 cryptocurrency exchange.
Hello everyone, my name is Fernando Rivero and I am the President of BlokTech Capital. And yeah, let's start the panel.
All right, so your first question. When investing in projects, what are the signs and indicators that you look for it to tell you it's worth?
So you always want to know who's part of the team, what problem is being solved, and from a personal perspective, I like to be married to my investments to an extent, so I'm looking for things that are solving a problem and things that are fungible, tangible as well. So there's a lot of different things that you look for from an investment perspective, but you want to make sure that the team is strong and that there is a problem being solved.
The first thing that, in my personal opinion, the first thing is to look at the team, to look at their track record, and you're basically investing in the people. A couple of bozos can have an amazing idea, an amazing product, but if they cannot execute on it, then the business or the investment will go to shit, excuse my French. So if the team is good, if they got a good track record, if they're people that I would invest in, then I look at the business model. Is the idea something that can be adoptable? Is it a business that is producing revenue? Then that would be the main, those would be the two main factors, 2 or 3 main factors that I would look at when investing and looking at a business.
Yeah, so I think they touched on it pretty accurately. Team is, of course, extremely important when assessing investment into a product. Obviously, depending on the specific investment strategy that I may have, I'll look at a project in a different ways. But typically, I'll go through several phases, starting with the team, boiling down to the business model, looking at the addressable market, specifically pertaining to tokens. I'm looking for utility and an existing user base that can leverage and benefit from the use of a token, not just someone trying to use buzzwords to raise capital. And I think that's really important. There needs to be a problem that can be facilitated through the use of a token.
Yeah, I think everybody touched on the most important aspects of it. However, my line of work, specifically, I look at how to do valuation of companies which are kind of like in the edge spectrum. So what I'm trying to say over here is that how do you evaluate a company with traditional metrics and traditional valuation formulation of understanding a company that's way far ahead. So imagine you're talking about Ethereum in the early days, so when the total addressable market and even the business model doesn't even make sense. So I think sometimes it's very difficult, but at the core of it, these elements will always be there when it comes to team, business model, what kind of problem they're solving, and what kind of traction they're getting. Thank you.
All right, so gentlemen, tell me, how are digital assets more secure than physical assets?
The question was about digital and physical assets. So the first thing comes to mind is I want to give you guys an example of real estate. So between brokers, realtors, buyers, and sellers, there's so much fraudulent activity and scams going on, and that's simply because the records are not kept on something like a ledger where information cannot be changed. So this is a great example of why digital assets are a lot more secure than physical assets are. For the example of real estate, I think it's probably the best example, simply because of records. I mean, that's the first thing that I can think of. I'll pass it on to you guys.
Yeah, I think that, looking at physical assets, I think digital assets have more transparency, which is often overlooked. So, you have a clear idea of the total available supply, release schedule. If you want to go even further, Bitcoin was, created in part to solve the double spend problem and fraud associated. Using a ledger, you really have full view and access to kind of mitigate some of those risks associated. And
I think they all touched on all the important things. I think a physical asset is something that you can hold, digital asset that you cannot hold, and which essentially means is that you're looking at more transparency. You're looking at models of understanding how what is it that you mean when you're looking at a digital asset. But at the bottom of everything is that it makes things more manageable. Thank you.
All right, guys, one last question, right? So, what are current fundraising mechanisms that we see in the crypto space? What's being used out there to make investments?
So everyone here, I would assume, is familiar with ICOs. STOs is something else that's also becoming popular. But full disclosure, the best way that I've seen investments in the crypto space is really through networking with people. It's who you know, not what you know in some instances. Obviously, if you're the best at something, you will be able to connect with investors. But if you're able to go to events like these and connect with the people that are on the floor running, that's really your best bet as far as finding people to back your project and things of that nature.
So being a cryptocurrency exchange that does IEOs, a lot of projects first go raise private equity from friends, from family, networking. And then, before they go to listing, they would go on an exchange to raise more funds, particularly because they can instead of trying to focus all their energy on raising funds, they can focus their energy on building their product while the exchange sells the tokens for them, gives them exposure, and then once they go for listing, they already have the exposure of the exchange, which in our case, we have about 500,000 registered traders on the exchange. So those traders will see the project, they will participate in the IEO, and once the project goes for listing, they already have some decent exposure, they have a user base that's watching the project, and volume on the exchange will be much better than if they just did an ICO and then went straight for listing.
Yeah, so I think to touch on that even further, the IEO method of fundraising has really done wonders for the space, I think, and I'm very bullish on it as a trend. I think the exchanges like LDJCapital are doing a fantastic job at providing initial screening, distribution, and access to investors. One of the benefits about ICOs originally was that investors were able to access smaller investment sizes into very exciting large companies, and that's really what's exciting about the further upcoming STOs as well. You can have a tokenized investment that allows you access in smaller parts, and having the IEOs kind of sit there as a screener initially provides a lot of comfort for the less sophisticated investor. And of course, that is coupled today with private equity rounds, trying to find strategic partners. So I think it's really come a long way since it first started in the space.
Yeah, thanks. I think I do agree with most of them. Both have positive and negative components on each of those investment model. My position is very clear, which is, of course, I represent a venture firm, and I would say that come and, take traditional investment And the reason is that is because at the end of the day, you know, we're not just investing, right? We are a support structure for the company, and that is essentially what we are looking at. And all these models that have come across ICOs, STOs, or IEOs have essentially provided the company the seed and the structure to kind of like get started. And I think definitely IEO right now is very interesting. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. You guys had some awesome answers. I want to give it up to our panelists. A big round of applause. Thank you so much.